Hey, check. Well, it's another one.
Hi everybody, thank you for watching. Today I'll be looking at the ecological setup or plan that exists within both the indoor pond and the outdoor pond. In other words, we're looking at the sterility of the indoor pond versus the active outdoor pond. So some persons have outdoor ponds, right? And some persons have indoor ponds. Indoor ponds to many is practically the best way to keep especially large fish, right? Fish that really and truly gets really large, that if put in an aquarium or stored in an aquarium, the amount of space that would be there would be limited. Okay, fine, cool. However, when looking at the ecological setup of the indoor pond versus that of the outdoor pond, you will see that the indoor pond is at a great disadvantage. Okay, I have ponds outside my house, outside my yard, right, in my yard, and these ponds have several different ecological cycle life forms, both insects and plants which surrounds it. Okay, so you have the ants, the spider, the butterfly, the lizards, some flying mites, that, or should I say flying, something that exists on the top of the water. I'm not sure as to what they are as yet. I know that they are not water lice nor water louse, but they just jump from one end to the next. I have several different insects. Practically all the insects in which I've actually highlighted, with an exception of the water lice, have actually seen within my pond. Right now, these insects are managed somewhat by nature. So at night, the spider would actually launch its web over the pond, and as the fly or the dragonfly stop by in the evenings to the late night to lay its egg, the spider would actually trap it within its web and will actually consume it in the night. Also, you have some moths that actually fly around in the night, in the late evening. They drink a little water, and you have the bees, and you have the lizards, you have the ants, and you have some other insects that exist around my outdoor ponds. And sometimes my fish, like my Jack Dempsey, will actually make a one gulp of some of the insects, yes, that exist uh, at the top of the pond, right? And my koi and my goldfish will actually get some of those daphnia, which actually swims around and hides in the root of my plants. Okay, so I've actually spoken about that, right? Now let's look at a typical indoor pond of insects that might live around. The in a typical indoor pond doesn't exist, so the in-between meal that a fish might get by just coming to the surface and just gulping a one or two insect, are the insects that actually live within the water that the fish lives within, and the fish now would have to swim it down to actually get a gas. We don't get some amount of protein from it, giving itself a little exercise. Does not exist inside. So therefore the indoor pond fish is a little bit more lazy in comparison to the outdoor fish. That, the outdoor pond, the fish which lives in the outdoor pond. It's interesting to note that about 75, I would say between 75 and 80% of the fish body is made up of mostly muscles. So therefore, with those muscles actually not being exercised, you find that the fish kind of get lazy after a bit. So within the indoor pond, the fish will probably just sit there not doing not much unless it's feeding time, or you're there, so therefore it's just trying to hide away from you. Or the tank mates or pond mates are not all that welcoming, thus there's always confrontation. But other than that, there's nothing to excite these fish. uh, Indoor ponds are really sterile. It doesn't give the opportunity for you to have insects in variation, and it doesn't give you the opportunity for fish to actually swim in search of their own food. It also doesn't give you much option with regards to plants, because the plants in which you might have in your own indoor pond would depend heavily on the light, right? The availability of light, and you won't be able to actually mimic the brightness or the intensity of the light which exists outdoors and in its varied time frame. Right, you probably might give it light like every 6 hours or 7 hours, but it still won't have that, right? uh Indoor ponds doesn't have the lacuity of uh movement of water as a result of wind blowing on the surface of the water, which results in oxygen actually existing within that pond. But you might say that I don't need that because I have a filtration system that keeps my water actually moving. Yes, that's wonderful, that's good, but sometimes the natural movement of the water kind of mimics the natural environment in which the fish is from, thus giving it a natural flow and kind of creating a natural balance and a natural movement of both fish and water and typical environment, right? uh Indoor ponds usually requires more water change than outdoor ponds, because of course you have a pond inside, you would always want it to look aesthetically correct. Outdoor ponds, it can clean itself in the sense that if you have a good ecological setup, with plants, with insect, with fish, with filtration, you don't have to be hastening to clean that pond once every week or every month. I only clean my Jack Dempsey pond like every 6 months, right? And sometimes I'm lazy. I'm not in the mood of cleaning it until about 8 months. And it's a lot of fish in there, and these fish are very large. You might be wondering, how is that? You see, I have both plants, filtration system, and I do change water, but I do not do extensive water change, right? But the ecological setup with the insects and all that which exists there kind of give it a natural balance, right? So that balance, I think, is absent as far as um, indoor ponds are concerned. Well, this is just a take with regards to looking at indoor ponds versus outdoor ponds. I believe that outdoor ponds have more advantage over indoor ponds. Right. Thank you very much for watching. Have an awesome day. Right here. Bye bye for now. See you next time. Peace.